Record today. Here we go. Hello and welcome to another episode of Life of the Military Spouses Edition. We are so excited. This is a fun episode, or at least I'm thinking. We're going to talk about the fun of military life, at least from our perspective. I think that I personally have done my best to make the best of all the situations. I know that there's plenty of spouses, and when we've talked about it, there's the ups, the downs, the good, the bad, all the things. But can we take it away with what did we find joyful in this fun that we called our military life? Ash, can you give a couple of things? One big thing, like what is the biggest thing that you come away with that is a joy?
Okay. I'll be honest, me and the military have not had the best relationship. Part of that being because, with what Eric does, they're actually technically called a silent professional. And so we never got involved with military, like anything. So, I don't really have a lot of experience like being totally submerged in the lifestyle. However, when I think about being in this lifestyle with Eric, even though we were kind of distant from technical terms of military, the biggest thing that comes to mind with us, with a joy of it, is it made Eric and I work together. It made us have to come close, have to really be a partnership. So what about you, Steph? What is like
Okay.
the main joy?
I would have to say it's the for me, it's the experiences. Like I was a 21, 22-year-old kid who got to live in Germany for 3 years on somebody else's dime. I mean, not, I guess you could say it that way, but like my husband was working. We had we had housing there. I got to live abroad. I got to see Europe, and experience life outside of the United States at 22. And I mean, it was an experience. And so, aside from experiences, because that's probably one of the biggest things that I can take away, is that my experiences themselves were just epic. I mean, can I say many other 22-year-olds got to travel Europe and get paid to do it? I mean, like my husband was getting paid while we were doing this. So I don't know. But the friendships, truly the friendships that came out of it, there are different kind of friendships. There's a different kind of just community and family and friendships that come out of the military. And so I personally feel like those were two of the biggest things that like came out of it.
You mentioned the friendships. That was like my second one, is like the community you meet and create, and then it's that give and take, because yeah, you're in the military, so you're constantly moving, or people are constantly moving away, or you're moving away. But with the loss, you gain more. And the beauty of social media now, you can stay connected so easily. It's not like you ever truly lose those friendships. They get distant, but there's always a connection there that's like nothing else, for sure. So yeah, that was my number two as well.
Yeah. And it's fun because like, okay, you and I have met. And so I remember there's one instance when it comes to relationships that I think it was kind of cool that I saw the difference. Is I want to say it was one of your girls' baby showers. And I went to the baby shower, and mind you, it's a bunch of like SF wives and me. I'm the conventional wife in a room full of SF wives. And I was like, I feel awkward because I can't relate, but yet I can.
Yeah.
So it was kind of one of those where you're like, we're all military wives, but we're all experiencing military life differently. And it was so cool to see the relationship that you guys had, and the community that you guys had as SF wives, like as your community of wives. And maybe that was just at that time, maybe it, that changes and stuff like that, but it was so cool to be a conventional wife, seeing that relationship and seeing those connections. And yet I was like in awe of it, because I was like, this is amazing. Like truly sisterhood, true, like, I don't know. I look at it and go, I'm like, it's a family. Like, that's just what I thought of it and how I felt about it, because it was just because of your jobs and what you experience is very different. Your community is just different than mine. And so, like, I went through military and the community and the friendships, and yeah, we would move, but I always felt like from the conventional side, we were moving every 2 years. So, or 3 if you were in some locations. And so it was cool because I would have ones from this duty station and friends from that duty station. And, I'd go back and forth and have friends from different places. But I always felt like I never felt like the bad friend if I didn't talk to them all the time, because we all got busy, we moved, we did. And yet you could instantly, and you knew this with your military friends, that you could instantly like, hey, how are you? And it would be like no time ever passed.
Right.
But yet you might not have talked to them in a couple of years, or you might, there might be that kind of a concept. But the community that I noticed from the conventional side, it was a bigger, broader community. You didn't, people would come and go. You wouldn't have that super tight relationship. Some you would, but it was like, again, they would come and go, and you had that flow, and you had a community for that time, or that duty station, or that deployment. Does that mean that they're like lifers? Probably not, but you had that tightness then. But there was always a distance. In the conventional side, there was always that sense of like, I'll keep you at arm's reach, and then we'll go from there, right? Like, we'll see where we're at after arm's reach. And then, but yet I feel like it was just different, at least seeing the relationship and seeing the community that showed up for your baby shower was very different, because it was very much so like, I just felt like I was at lunch with the girls. Like it was just like I was eating on a girl's lunch. Like, that's truly what it felt like. It wasn't forced. It wasn't like, I always felt like the conventional side, it was like a mommy and me play date. Like, we were just setting up play dates just so we could survive. Whereas I think I felt the difference of, it was truly like just a girl's lunch. It wasn't anything like,
that was thinking back, like that's Nora's baby shower, right? Because I already had Liv when we met. And then after, right before you left, that's when I had Nora. So gosh, that was 8 years ago. And
yep.
And yeah, so Eric had I think at that time he had just switched units. He went from a team, I don't even know what they're called on one side of it, into the CRIF or the SIF. I think it was called the SIF before, and then he worked in the CRIF, and which went to an even higher tempo. But that team that we came from, like you're saying, it was truly a family, and the difference is because the community that we experience, like, or that we're in, SF, they don't move as often as the conventional side. They have one duty station, maybe 2. And if you're an officer, like that part is a little different, like they're moving more often. But for the team guys, for the enlisted, we're kind of we kind of stay put. And so we were really able to cultivate like those friendships and that sense of family because all the guys are working together. So all of us wives are together all the time, and really it was us together all the time because our guys were always gone. and and
Right.
so to be able to have that sense of joy in finding like that community and those
Mhm.
ladies that we really shared life with and we did life with, you know the connection was our guys, you know
Yes.
some connections, some friendships have come and gone, but for the most part what we experienced was hard and it was constant. And so we really banded together and we do keep in contact with a lot of each other, and I mean gosh, now that's 15, 17 years now, like of us have knowing each other. Almost, I think more closer to 15 years, but gosh, that's a long time, for
Yeah.
friendships in the military because they do come and go so frequently to kind of last. And yes, so like I reconnected with one of my friends in Germany. She was there 3 years prior to us going, and then they extended. And so they were there the 3 years that we were there. And it's like every time we get together, did we see each other often? Not really. But man, it's like every time we did get together, like you said, it's like you just kind of fall right back into it. You just, like you said, no time has passed at all. And you just have that common ground, that common connection, that common history with each other. And that really is a joy. I can say that I find like that really is something that is so special that I can take away from this whole experience of my husband having this as a career, you know, and because it could have been opposite. I do hear about the conventional side and the wives or the spouses on that side where it is like it's it's like either everything is so formal where it's an event for the wives to get together so that they can meet and socialize, or it is like a play date, and it's nothing truly, for the friendships, you know, and I'm not saying that friendships don't come out of it, you know, but the start of it is like not necessarily just like, I mean, we would meet at people's houses every single weekend, you know, and because we wanted to, not because it was something that we had to go to for our husband's work event or something, or
Right.
because kids needed to get together. It was because we wanted to get together. So, yeah, that's been a huge something that is a massive takeaway, for me being in this community versus, the conventional side. I don't think I would have had those relationships that I did.
Yeah. From the conventional side, it's different. Like I will say, it's just different. And you get some of the, I'll put it out there, you get some shady wives. So I had a tendency I'll keep you at arm's distance. Just because I didn't want to get involved in some of the gossip and the problems and the difficulties because that's just what can kind of happen sometimes. But like you said, our connection was our guys, and that's just what it was. Now there were a couple of families that we went and did stuff with. We would go and do festivals and dinners and hang out with. Um, and that was fun. It was fun because you truly wanted the kids wanted to hang out, parents wanted to hang out. It was fun. Um, all of that. So it was one of those things where, yeah, I got a couple of those relationships. And granted, it depended on the duty station too. Some duty stations, it was, like Germany was one kind of group and Colorado was a different one. And it was just different. But the friendships are like crazy awesome because even if you never felt bad because if you didn't talk to them right away, like we said, it just kind of picks up and it's okay. But also, like, they got you. They got you on a different level. They understood that, like, they didn't look at you funny that your husband wasn't home again. They
Right.
didn't look at you funny that you're there, like, ready to pull your hair out because, like, they don't look at you funny. They just pick up. They come in, they do what they need to. Like, they don't even ask you, like, hey, how can I help? They just literally, like, I have friends who would just walk in and start doing. Like, we would just do. We would be that companion or friendship that was like, especially when the guys were gone, they would just be that, like, other half, the partner. Like, they would just pick up. They wouldn't ask, they wouldn't, what do you need? No, they would just show up. Like, I remember a lot of the times our friendships were like, we left the door open and we knew it. Like, we knew that the other one's door was open. You never knocked. Like, please don't ever knock on a friend's door. You'll watch her end up on a puddle on the floor. Like, that was just one of our worst nightmares. And so it was just one of those things, like, they got that you didn't knock, you just came in. The door was always open. They got different friendships. And I I might be different in the way of a conventional wife ending up becoming friends with a lot more of the soldiers than I did the some of the wives, but that was just because he had married guys, but he also had single guys underneath him. And so I became like the mom to the unit. I just kind of did. My natural instinct is to mother, and so I'm always like, where are you eating today? Who's got what? Where are you at? And so there's a couple of soldiers that I still, even to this day, will talk to, and they'll be like, "Hey, mom, what, can I have this difficulty? Can you help me?" And they'll just text, and it'll be just that moment. So I might be a little bit different in that way of, like, some of Chris's soldiers still come to me more because they want to just, like, they know that the mom's like mother figure, friend figure,
Yeah.
not necessarily like leadership kind of a way, but just like they
You
need
were
the
able
comfort of home.
you were able to create home for them while they were away from home, you know.
Yeah.
And that brought joy to those soldiers, because they'll always remember that. They're probably homesick. They're missing a home cooked meal, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, so the other thing though I do want to mention, because my time in Colorado, we were here for almost 7 years. Again, I just mentioned we were able to cultivate those relationships when we went to Germany. And well, first of all, we went to North Carolina. That was completely different for me because my best friend was there. I did not need to go on base. I did not need to even try per se and build more friendships because I was like, there's no need. Like, I'm going to invest and be intentional with my time since my best friend is here and I have this time with her because I know I'm not going to have it forever. I was able to create one more really amazing friendship. She's another bestie of mine because I coached soccer with her. Just so happened she was a military wife, but it wasn't because of the military that we created a friendship. And the three of us were just kind of inseparable, And so that was a little different. But when we went to Germany, again, we fought tooth and nail. We fought tooth and nail to go there. We did not want to go there. We had plans to move back to Colorado after North Carolina. We had money saved because on the way back to Colorado, we were going to purchase a boatload of land in Kentucky. My husband had just bought a truck because we were going to buy a trailer and, move and then use that, for the land purchase and all that. Anyways, God had a completely different plan. And
Right.
he said, no, you're going across the ocean to a foreign country. And Eric fought tooth and nail. He even emailed his command back here in Colorado, like, please, like, just begging in a way. And they're just like, see ya, Auf Wiedersehen. And
Yeah.
choose, yes. And so, that's why the experience and the travel for me is not necessarily a joy. We didn't want it. We honestly
Mm.
didn't want it. We always wanted to be settled. We always wanted, and that sounds like a contradiction for him joining the military, because if he did not become a special, a Green Beret, then we would have been going all the time. But it just so happened that
Right.
it worked out in this way. So, but while we were there, I had, even though we're in special forces, I just came from this type of experience of being able to really have a community, have that time with all of these families, because it when the guys were home, all of us were getting together. It was the families, our kids, everything, right? um and then us ladies just rolled it over when they left. But we came from that, and then I came from such solid, deep relationship with my best friends in North Carolina to a place where it was conventional. It was a joint base. We had Army, Air Force, Navy, and Marine there. We all lived on the same base. And or there is where we were stationed was in Stuttgart, and so there was like four bases, um
Right.
all in like this, gosh, within like a 15-mile radius of each other or something like that.
Right.
And
Hmm.
um every base had something different, so you were traveling to every base constantly, because one base had the commissary, or a big commissary. The other ones were kind of little. And then the other one had the PX or BX, like the Air Force would say. um and then the medical stuff was on another one, so you're constantly visiting all the different bases. And the base that we chose to live on, we did not want to live on the German economy, because we heard nightmare stories of landlords and all that kind of stuff. And then on top of that, you would have to get all new appliances, which I wasn't gonna I wasn't gonna fight that battle. So all the
Hmm.
everything on base was still, 120, so we could use all of our things. But we were on a base where there wasn't any work for the soldiers. It was strictly all housing. And so
Okay.
what did we do? Everybody just communed together, because for one,
Mhm.
um it's very hard to find German friends, because of the language barrier. The Stuttgart,
Yeah.
what we experienced was very mean people, very rude people to Americans. Anywhere outside of Germany or outside of Stuttgart, they're wonderful, wonderful people. But
Mhm.
Stuttgart themselves was just very hard. They were very hard people. I even had some like German friends that were married to American soldiers. So I met them where
Hmm.
they would say, yeah, they would. So in Stuttgart, the people are called Schwabens. And so they're like, yeah, the Schwabens are mean. So even they're saying that. So we just had a different experience. We didn't venture out. So everything was on base, you know. And then during that, it was during COVID. So we really kind of were stuck. And so we I was almost forced to have to adapt to this conventional lifestyle, you know, and I
Hmm.
really learned about the coming and going of friends, because I would meet somebody and I'm like, oh, I could really see something maybe happening here. And they
Yeah.
leave 3 months later because it's that rotation. And I'm like, oh, you are
Yep.
leaving. So I'm not even going to try, you know?
Yep.
And, and then I experienced the one that I'm leaving, because when we moved to North Carolina, all of the ladies at that time were kind of disbanding. We were all going. So no one really stayed back. So, we all left. This time I left, and I left behind some really good friends that I did meet, you know, but I really got to experience the joys and the differences of the
Mhm.
conventional side as well. And I mean, to pick and choose, I'm not sure. I'm not going to say I would pick and choose. There's pros and cons to both for sure. but
Oh,
it was just very different from what I was used to, because I was used to a family and that's not what you had.
no, you had to make your family is what I think I learned from the conventional side. You made your family. Like we were at a different point in time when we went to Germany and we lived there. Even when we were in Colorado, um, we were always, I mean, we lived on base in Germany. So I learned that life quickly. But we explored. I was like, I didn't want to move. I was like, do I move? I don't know about this whole thing. Like Chris was supposed to do 2 weeks of hometown recruiting after basic and AIT. And after AIT, they handed him his Germany ticket. And I was like, you're not coming home? Like, what? And he's like, apparently we're moving to Germany. And I looked at my mom, bawled my eyes out, and I was like, I should not go. And she was like, you will go because your husband needs his life with you and your daughter. Even if it is for 3 months, even if it's for 6 months, it doesn't matter because he knew 6 months after he got to Germany, he was deploying. And I was like, do I go? Do I not go? What do I do? Like, I could stay here and make that trip shorter. I could go with, it would extend his time. I did this whole like back and forth thing. And I will tell you that a lot of prayer and my mom's wise words are probably the only thing that put me in Germany. And I am eternally grateful that we did that trip because not only like there were silly things like I learned how to drive stick shift.
In
I
Germany?
learned how to get on. Yeah, in Germany, I had 24 hours before Chris left for a year-long deployment. He goes, "Well, you better learn how to drive." And I was like, "What? I can't
Oh my
drive this
gosh.
car. It's stick. Like
All the
we've got a
roads,
parking
all the different rules and everything, and then learning how to drive
lot
stick shift.
4 hours. 24 hours to figure out how to drive a stick shift vehicle and get around Germany before this man left." I was like, okay, we're doing this. We're doing this. Great. Sounds wonderful. I mean, I didn't stall it that hard. I learned in that one day how to drive. Um, and I mean, it was silly. It was silly. I learned how to take the bus by myself. I'm a city girl and I never took a bus like in my life other than like a school bus, but I never took public transportation until we moved there. And I was like, you want me to do what with the child? You want me to get this child on that bus? I'm from the city. Like I grew up in Chicago. Like what this public transportation is if I want to get like robbed. And it was different. It was a totally different experience. My kids grew up, they were little. I mean, we moved there and Abby was 6 months and spent up until she was 3, almost 4, in Germany. So she grew up seeing castles as playgrounds. Like that's what we would do. We would go to the town and we'd go to the square and we would go experience, even if it was just to the city center, and go get a gelato and get like let her chase pigeons in the square. Like that's what I literally did for fun. Was like, we're gonna go to the square today. And it cost me 50 cents to get on the bus, drive her to the city. I let her run through the city with chasing pigeons. We'd get an ice cream and come home. Like that's what we did.
Ice cream. That's such a big thing. It was either a beer garden for the adults and they had attached an ice cream thing for the kids because you could take
Yeah,
your kids to the beer gardens. It's not weird there. They even have
no,
playgrounds for kids while you go sit and have a beer. You know,
yes.
it was awesome.
Totally different experience. So for me, being the 22-year-old naive child who had like, I never left the city of Chicago. I never left Illinois. Now I'm moving across the world from my normal. It was one of the greatest experiences. I mean, my mom came to see me. I was pregnant literally like 3 weeks from my due date with Jackson. And she's like, I hope you don't have this baby in Berlin. And I was like, where are we going, Mom? She had planned out a 2 week long trip to travel from top to bottom of Germany. I was literally days from my due date. And I mean, this woman is having me drive all over creation. I had Abby. So it was like things like that I'm just like, what was I doing? And yet it was so awesome to be able to be like, yeah, I went to Berlin and I went over here and I saw this and we did a retreat and at Edelweiss and you sit out and you
Love
look at
that
the
place.
Alps. And I mean, Chris went to France. I went to Ireland while he was deployed. And it was a quick trip. Like it was like $200 ticket for there and back for me and Abby to go to Ireland for a week. It
Yeah.
was great. I mean, it was a different experience altogether. And even then, when we went to Colorado, it was a lot of like, we went off-roading, we went down trails. I did, Manitou, and I purposely got myself out because I could either say, I could sit in my room and be upset that I'm not at home, or like at home with like my mom,
Right.
or I make the best of what's in front of me. And I'm like, we had more like dumb, granted, military life when you're 22, 23 is probably not the most intelligent thing in the world. To let, like let a bunch of 23-year-olds free in Europe or through Colorado, probably
Oh,
not the most genius.
yeah, but I mean, you're that's part of being an adult, right? Like you're
Right.
learning, you're living, you're making the mistakes, you're having the experiences. I mean, we were already older when we went there, but and our time was gypped because of COVID, but
Yeah.
Eric would tell me about all the young single soldiers that are coming in. This is their first duty station to Germany, and they are having a grand old time, you know? And
Oh, yeah. I mean,
so,
the stupidity. He was like, man, these guys are dumb. You come in on like a Monday. And I always waited for him to come home on Monday evening so that I could hear about PT or like what happened that day. And everybody was like, I don't even know how I got to PT in the morning. I'm like, what? Guys, what are you doing? They're like, I mean, the bars were open late. And I was like, oh, for the love of all.
but I
Um,
will say in Europe, these soldiers are able, as long as they make work, then it's fine. But it is the public transportation is so easy and so
mhm.
cheap. There is no reason for these guys or soldiers, females too, to ever get into a car and be driving. They can
Right.
hop on the metro, they can hop on the bus. It will literally drop you off. There are stops literally so close to wherever you need to go. And it makes it so easy. Yes, it makes it so easy for them to just go do stuff like that and be stupid and then come back. As long as they're there on time for work, then so be it,
Yep.
you know?
Yep. I mean,
So,
we didn't, in Germany, we didn't live on the economy, but we had friends who did. I tried to very much so, like, I would grocery shop in the economy. I would go and, my own doctor was in the economy. I tried very, very hard any of our like weekend trips. I tried to be a part of the economy so that I could experience the life that was in front of me, so that I could opened my eyes to the world around me. I was given an opportunity and I just really, really, truly ran with it. And even when we got to Colorado, though, I, again, raised in the Midwest, would go to Colorado only for like a week long family ski trip. So when we moved out there, I was like, well, what happens in the summer? What's this? Where is that? Like we were traveling every weekend. We were gone and we'd bring, hey, you want to come with us? Hey, do you want to come with us? We'd bring friends all the time. We were either, out with the Jeeps, we were climbing some mountain somewhere, something dumb. I mean, we had just had Eli and I did wait the 6 weeks, but um Chris would walk with, we had a hiking backpack. That child was in a hiking backpack more than I think anyone ever normally is. And we just throw the backpack on and take them with us. We take the big kids. I mean, we would just go. And it was great because as our kids going from castles as playgrounds, they looked at a playground. I remember when we first moved and we showed them a real like American playground. They were like, what's this? And I was like, the playground. They're like, no, it's not. Abby literally looked at me and was like, no, it's not. Where's the cat? Like, where's the big building? And I was like,
mhm.
we don't have those anymore. And Chris was like, here, how about instead of a big building, we'll hand you a big mountain. And I was like, have at it, kiddo. Like, just go experience the world around you. So like, I mean, the kids just, even now, Abby will be like, can we go hike? And I was like, where? We are in the middle of Flatland, USA. Where do you want to go? Like, what do you want to do? She's like, can we go back? And I was like, girlfriend, I would love to be back. I would love to be back there. And I personally thank the military a million times over for allowing my family to break out of our shell and the comforts and just go and experience. Because if it wasn't for sometimes the nudge, I don't know if we would have ever left Illinois. I don't know if we would have ever left the United States. I don't know if we would have ever gotten to experience any of these things, especially at what we did, you know, at the fun and the times and the memories that we did. It was an experience. It truly was. It opened our eyes up to the beautiful glories and the beautifulness that God's created for us. Like Chris truly tapped into his own like love for nature out there. It was always awe-inspiring. Like it would take your breath away and allowed you just to see the beauty that God created. And I mean, if it wasn't for the military, I also think my faith wouldn't be as strong as it is, because I had to lean on my faith. I had to turn to God. When he was deployed, I practically lived at church because that was my sanctuary. That was my safe space to really go, okay, I know you've got this. But even once he was home, church was my safe space. Like church was where I went to like just deal with it. And if it weren't for the military, I don't think I found a lot of military, like faith-based military wives, which was super cool, because then you're like, okay, not only do we have the guys in common, but we have faith, and that's what's going to get us through. And those are some of the longest relationships I have, are the faith-based military wives, are the ones that have truly come through, as I call them, my lifers, that are just truly, doesn't matter what's going on in life, we've always got contact. But my faith grew exponentially because of the military.
Yeah. And you know, that going with that, and you know, going back to even like how I said the military made Eric and I stronger, like, but because, you know, gosh, okay, I met Eric in Hawaii. We had got married in Hawaii. I'm from Hawaii. My folks are in Hawaii. And that first year before we left, when the military took us away, I mean, I was every argument, every tiff, every something, I was running back to mommy and daddy. And my mommy, bless her heart, you know, was never biased. And I always hated that sometimes because she never took my side. She always took Eric's side, but she was like, turn your butt around, go back to your husband. You need to work this out. But I was in a mindset of, oh, I can just go home, you know? But when the military took us away from everything, we didn't have family nowhere. That's been his whole military career. We never had family around. Right. And because going back to Hawaii is so expensive, I really didn't get to go back very often. Now my folks came, but they had to share their time, you know, they had other kids that, you know, were on the mainland. So, you know, they're picking and choosing also where are they going to go and who are they going to see, and things like that. So it's like, Eric and I really had to band together. We really had to work it out. We really had to figure it out. And if we weren't in the military, I don't think we would have.
Yeah.
If I didn't have my faith, I don't think we would have been, and if Eric didn't have his faith, because his faith has grown so much too. So if we didn't have our faith, we wouldn't have even the desire to want to work it out, you know, and And so I am so grateful for the military taking me away in a way, because it really strengthened our relationship,
Yeah.
going to someplace new, going away from home, going away from family,
Yes.
you know? And I really do find, like, look, going through it, yeah, that sucked. I don't,
Yeah. 100%.
that was the hard stuff, right?
Yeah.
But looking back at it now, especially in a season where I'm at, where we're transitioning out of the military, um like, I look back and I smile, like I wouldn't change a dang thing, you
No.
know.
Yeah.
I All of those trials, all of those hardships, all of the crap
Hmm.
was so had so much value, because then I see how we worked through it,
Yeah.
and who we were becoming after each, after each challenge in our marriage
Yes.
or in life or whatever, and how I look back and see how we've grown. And
Yes.
without the military putting us in these positions of having to grow up, having to
Hmm.
mature, we would have been two completely different people. Our marriage, I think, would have probably failed, you know.
Yes.
And did we have to grow up quicker than a lot of adults? Yes. Did we have different and harder experiences and challenges
Yes.
sooner than adults? Yes. Because all adults are going to have these challenges and experiences. I just think that the military caused them to come quicker than a normal lifestyle, you know? And so, I just I just feel so much appreciation for the military in that aspect, you
Hmm.
know, because I see where we're at now, and I'm going, wow, we really we really did grow. We really did band together. I was like, we did the dang thing.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
We did it. We did it. And I look forward now that we're getting out, because we have this foundation
Yep.
on what's to come,
Yes.
So that's why that's such a huge joy. And but you're right, like having our faith, that's such a massive part of it, like it was only by the grace of God, literally only by the grace of God, that
Yes.
we would have gotten through any of the things. And maybe, that'll be another episode on what those trials and tribulations might have been on a more specific level. But it regardless of what they were, as of right now, it was literally only by the grace of God that we pulled through, either alive or together.
Right.
So
And I do have to say I would want to say it wasn't because of the military that I met Chris. Like I knew I was going to marry this man well before the military. So I look at that and I go, wonderful, right? Like I knew this man, I was going to marry him. Am I eternally grateful for the military and the challenges it has faced our relationship? Yes. As much as in the moment they suck. Yes. Like you said, they are not fun to go through. The moments and things and the trials and tribulations and the time period that you have to be away from the person that you're like, I mean, I was literally 3 days into a marriage and he was gone. Like, I had to learn how to be married from a distance. I had to learn how to be a wife from 8 hours away. Like it was different. It was one of those things you're like, if we make it through this thing, you're not going anywhere. You're stuck with me if we deal with this. Like, and that's kind of how we look at it now. We're like, dude, if we got through all of that, the rest of life is a piece of cake now. Like we literally look at it. And there were many times in the military where even my aunt, who'd been married for 50 years, had looked at me and gone, you have gone through more in your 3 years or 5 years of marriage than I have gone through in 50. She goes, Steph, you guys are lifers. You're never going anywhere other than to each other. And it has strengthened our marriage. It has challenged our marriage, but it's challenged us in ways that I almost wish others could experience, like, because it forces you to have to bank on the other person. You almost want them to, you want others, because like we will sit around meeting with like my sister-in-law or our friends who are non-military, and they're like bickering over whether they changed the like they took the toilet paper off, or they like, you know, like they're bickering over things that I am like, what? You're complaining about whether the garbage got taken out? Are you kidding? If that was the biggest thing I ever had to deal with, then oh my goodness, like that was a great day if it was only just the garbage. Like, what? Like, like, oh my. And you almost want, you kind of like sit there and you chuckle and you laugh because you're just like, if they only knew. Like, if these other couples could sit around and be like, if you only knew, and you have no idea. Like, you have no idea. You're going to think that is the pettiest thing in the world. And yet we get to look back and I'm like, we've only been married, October is 14 years. And I look at him every day and I'm like, I feel like it's been 40, but yet I feel like it's been 5. Like, you play the game because you like, we have such a relationship of the same that of a 40 or 50-year long marriage, but yet it still feels so young and fun, and we make it the best that we can, and we still face challenges today. I'm not going to say that we don't face challenges. I mean, just the other day we had a massive heart-to-heart at 11 o'clock at night in my kitchen, and it blew his mind, and he heard things and I heard things, and it was this big conversation. And it was funny because it was about money, and it was the day that we recorded. We were talking about money, and I was like, this is hysterical. 14 years in, and we still have the big conversations, and we still talk over things. But it's one of those things that, like, the military has challenged our relationship in the best way. And and I'm proud to say that we are part of the 30% that has been successful and continues on. And you know, we've beat the odds.
You say that.
You can look back now and you're like, if I could deal with all of that, I cannot wait for the rest of life, because that's going to be easy compared.
Oh my gosh. We are so looking forward. And you know, it's funny because that you say that you beat the odds. So when we came back to Colorado, you know, 6 years had passed, and a lot of growing, a lot of maturing, a lot of progression in rank for my husband. And he comes back and he starts running into people, right? And he starts like, oh crap, like, dude, how you doing? I haven't seen you since 2012. Or, oh my gosh, like, where have you been, man? Like, what are you doing? Like, all this kind of stuff. And a lot of the question, or one of the same questions that he got asked by a lot of the guys was, are you still together with Ashley? And he goes, yep. And they'll go, oh wow. Because especially in the SF realm, like, it is not common it to have the same wife through their whole career. Like, there's at least one divorce, sometimes two, for most of these guys, you know, because of the tempo, the up tempo, their trauma, all this kind of stuff. Like, the women cannot handle sometimes, or the guys can't handle, you know, they just don't work together after a while. And so to be with the same woman for the entirety of a Green Beret's career is a rarity. It's a unicorn, you know, and everybody was so surprised. And I'm going, why is that a thing? You know, like, so like,
because it shows how hard it shows that it takes a certain kind of person. Like, it's not easy. I mean, as veterans, we've gotten into different veteran organizations, and Chris was into a hockey team and all of that. And it's a bunch of disabled veterans. And we get together with a lot of disabled veterans, especially here in Chicago. They have a lot of them. And they will ask me, I've been asked many times at different things, conferences, events. I've been asked, "Oh, are you his first wife?" I'm like, "I am his only wife."
His only wife. That's right.
And they look at us like we are like you said, a unicorn. Like a unicorn just walked into the room. Holy cow, what do you mean? You were married and you did this thing? You came out together? You're not some newbie fresh off the block? I'm like, "No. No, ma'am. We have been through it."
Yes.
And they different, like I noticed that the demeanor changes a little because they kind of look at us and it's like a different kind of respect, a different kind of like wow, and a different kind of like awe over it because they know, like, one, they know that if they get Chris, they're getting me. Like it's a package deal. You get one, you're getting both. So you better like both of us. And
Right.
if you're getting me, then you're getting the motley crew of 4 kids. So here you go. But I think that it shows a different kind of strength, demeanor, respect. And I mean, I keep going back to strength because it just takes strength to hold on that long, to fight for it. And it's a choice. It is truly a choice. We make the choice every single day to choose each other, not just when it's good, not just when it's this and it's butterflies and rainbows, but we will sit through the storm with each other. We choose each other every day. It's not a convenience. We've seen the tornadoes that can be thrown at us and we still face them. So I noticed that demeanor changes just a smidge when people hear that, we've been married 14 years and 7 of them were in the military. They kind of look at us just a little bit different. And it's not like a bad different, but it's just like oh wow, an awe thing. And you beat the odds. You truly beat the odds because of faith, because of strength, because of a love for each other, because of it. And I mean, as much as, yes, we've talked about the hardships and we will continue to talk about hardships, but sometimes those hardships are the great things. They show us ourselves. They show us the other person. They show us a lot of things, and we've had to grow up. We've had to learn how to grow up. But I personally feel like there are so many joys about the military, and we can go specifics and we can talk about different events. But I think in general, like, I mean, we got to be, I always feel like we got to be young and not have to worry. Like, we got to go to balls, we got to experience, we got to go and just do, and yet still have a day job and not have to, you know what I mean? Like, not have some of the scrutiny that the outside world has, because maybe it's just us, we just forgot. We just let go of the scrutiny. Maybe it was because we were naive, and so we just lived versus worried about people and the other things. I don't know.
I think, being in the military, you have your perspective on life. It shifts, it changes, because you have a different outlook on what real threats and what real problems are. And so whereas, the civilians, they don't see that. They're only seeing what the media pushes out. They only see, like, literally it's so minor in the grand scheme of things. Like, take off the blinders.
Yes.
Open your field, your vision, open your view, and widen your range on your perspectives here, because it is so minor.
Yes.
And I think being in the military, like, all of us are able to kind of grasp that. Like, really, guys, like, it's not that serious. Just, like, have grace for each other, love each other, because you don't know what people are going through. Like, and I know people hear that all the time, but to really understand it and see it, you know,
Yes.
is different when you're in the military, when you're constantly coming and going, when you're constantly meeting new people. And it's just like, I think that's why we have that. when you work, you work, but when you play, you really kind of play,
Yep. Yeah.
and
And I,
I'm a little different. I never went to a ball. I've still never been to a ball.
really,
I don't think
really,
I will ever go to one. Just because I don't know, like I don't personally see the reason to spend all the money on a dress that I know I can go to Goodwill or ask for somebody for
yep.
one, but I don't
My
see
dress
the need.
for like $20 each
Yeah,
one. Went to
it's
two balls. One
it's
was at the castle. That was the only reason I went to. And then a really big group of us wanted to go to the one in Colorado. That was the only reason we ever did them.
yeah, and then like, but I don't see the need to like get dressed up like that, like for one night, and then like just go there, and it's like, I don't know, it's from what we've heard of all of the SF balls, it's like, and I know it's all kind of similar. They have like um their army pride like
Yep.
ceremony things and the cheers, and so Eric's just like, nah. And I'm like, nah. Again, Eric and I took like silent professional to a whole new level. Like I said, we never really did anything with the military. We never got involved with anything with the military. I rarely even before shopped on the commissary or at the commissary, which I was so completely stupid because it's so much cheaper. But I just we just never did it. And so, but we do understand, like, when they work hard. When they come home and they're able to play,
They
we
play.
did play hard. Yes, we were young in the military too. Did we have parties with our kids playing
Yes,
downstairs? Yes, we
yes,
did.
sure did.
Actually, we had parties where all of our guys were riding down our hill in my kids little motorized car. And, so yes, did we party hard and we were stupid?
Yep.
Yes. So we understood that joy of life, of just letting other things go. So
And I think one other thing that we as military understand, and I think both of us, I don't know, I think you would 100% believe this and understand this. And I think because of what Chris deployed as, like he was route clearance, he's looking for bombs, is that tomorrow is never granted to us. We can only have today. And I think that that is one thing that we have learned. I think, especially being on the spouse's side, we don't miss phone calls from our husbands. We don't miss, like, we will do everything in our power to answer a phone call, like, because we understand that tomorrow that phone call might not happen. We might not have tomorrow with you or whatever. Like, we understand that's why we play as hard as we do and we work as hard as we do, is because tomorrow isn't granted to us. We can't guarantee that. And so, I think that is something that we, and I don't know if this is because of the jobs that both of our guys face, or is this just military in general. I think that is something that is is part of us. And again, I'm speaking just from you and I. And again, that's probably because of what our guys did. And I don't know if anybody else can relate to that concept, but we look at it and we go, tomorrow's not always granted. We've seen funerals of young people. We've watched and heard stories of traumas and accidents and hospital stays, and we've heard of the trauma. We've watched the trauma. We've been in the pews
we
in the
lived it. We lived it or are living it,
right.
And I do have to say, just on my side, actually, just a little correction, because I have missed his calls. But my gosh, like,
And
in
I
those
have too.
moments where I have missed it, it's like, oh my, it's
Yeah.
detrimental. Like, and
Speak to your
because what?
I said, it makes you almost sick to your stomach. Like, I
Yeah,
remember a call and it would just literally make, it would sink.
because I know I like him and I we had this thing like he never called me every day. I didn't want him to. He didn't want to because we didn't want to get into the routine of expectations and expecting that every day, and then when he couldn't, then I'm going to go, "Oh my gosh, freak out," right? So he'd make it a point to call a week, like once a week or like once every couple days. And whenever I didn't get those calls, I knew he was working. I knew he was not safe. I knew. And so when those calls did come in, say I was in the shower or the phone was on silent and I missed it, I'm going, it hurt so bad,
Yes.
and then it scared me because it's like, okay, first of all, one, he's calling, so yay. But is it a quick turnaround and then I'm not going to hear from him again in another 7-10 days?
Right.
And then what if I don't ever hear from him?
Right.
So like missing those calls were always so hard, you know and so it's like, yeah, you did try to answer every single one.
And you didn't take it for granted.
No.
I'm Some of Chris and I are most prized possessions. Like, you could literally burn my house down. In the prized possessions that we would lose it, sob, tears, the whole thing over, are our letters.
Oh,
When
right.
when he was in basic and AIT, they didn't to each other. Even when he was deployed, I sent letters to him and he kept them. And just those moments, like, those are some of those, we don't take anything for granted because we understand, like, and it's not just between us and our spouse, but that's just in general to anybody. Like, I remember missing one of my mom's calls and it was like, oh, but can I catch her again? And will I, like, and I guess it was more so detrimental and very sickening feeling when you missed your spouses.
Yeah.
But it started to play into other parts of your life. You didn't take your mom's phone call for granted because it wasn't as easy to, you couldn't just turn around and go down the block anymore. You couldn't turn around and go home anymore. I learned that, it started to play into other things. I truly valued, and I never took a friendship for granted. I never took a phone call for granted.
Well, that goes right back to the joys, the really, we had three joys combined, and
Yep.
we both said friendship and community, and that goes right back into it. It wasn't just the friendships we met, but it was the community and our friendships and our family that strengthened because of the military taking us away, or just the lifestyle. So like, yeah, like you said, with your mom, like your relationship with your mom strengthened and was
Yeah.
different because of that. And that's a joy, because look at your relationship with your mom now. I bet it's like she's your best friend. My mom is one of my best friends. I call her every day.
Yeah, my mom was always my best friend, but I think that having us being farther away, we learned a different thing about each other. Like, I respected my mom even more. I mean, we were an 8-hour time difference when I was a new mom. I'm a first time mom dealing with life in a foreign country, and I have to call her it's 2 o'clock my time. It's obviously a little more of a convenient time frame for her, but I would be calling and being like, I don't know what to do. And I don't know what to do, mom. And she's like, the same thing you would do here at home. Like, and it was just, sometimes it was that moment. And I remember one call, I'd be like, I'm so sorry, I'm calling you late. And she's like, it's normal here. What? And like, what time is it? And my brother called me for homework help once in high school, but he called me in his afternoon, which was like middle of the night for me. So he's like, I need help with my math. And I'm like, it is 2 o'clock in the morning.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, what? And he's like, oh, I forgot. But it was something so simple. And I never took it for granted.
Yeah.
And it's that community. It's that strengthening of relationships. And I really hope that this episode itself can help all of us whether we've been in for a while, we haven't been in for a while, or, we've been out for a while, that we understand, like, we can look back and smile at some of the moments, and we can look back and actually ask ourselves, what are the good things that came out of it? What are the joys? What are some fun things? And look back at it with joy and look forward to what's to come. Because if you're a newer spouse in the middle of this, like, you've got so much more coming, and use this as your survival guide of how to make it the best that it can be if you're a newer spouse. But as much as, you look at the bad things and you're like, man, that was awful. You're like, but it had great parts to it. And we experienced and we learned and we did. There's so much we can take away from it. But I really hope that this is at least can have everybody kind of chuckling, because I think we've all had those moments where you're just kind of like laughing over it, and we can all look back and just laugh at it, love at it. I hope not cry over it, but hopefully if it's crying, it's tears of joy.
Good tears. Yeah. Like just remembering and like maybe just sparking some memory for you guys. Like it's good memory, So like reminiscing like on some old friendships that you had, or the community that you guys had at a certain duty station, and been able to just really have fun there and grow there, because ultimately that's what it's about. We're growing. We're growing in love, we're growing in life, we're growing in grace, and just hopefully, like Stephanie's saying, like we just wanted to lighten the mood a little bit, and we wanted to share like some of the good amidst the bad.
Yeah, maybe this will be your cue to reach out to a old military friend or spouse and say hi. It'll be your chance to kind of dust off the old ideas and the old moments, and just truly laugh with joy, laugh with fun, and just have an exciting moment. But I hope that everybody makes sure that you're following along on the podcast. Make sure your notifications are on, because we've got new episodes coming every week. So I want to make sure that you guys are aware of them. Follow us on socials, because we'll be putting up tips and tricks. We'll put up previews of what's to come, so that you kind of know, and just stay in touch with us. We want to hear from you. So even if you put it in the comments of like, what are your joys from military life? Where were your funny things? Share with us what you have going, fill us in, and truly let us know what is some of the joys from your military experiences. And we cannot wait to keep being here with you guys. And thank you for allowing us to share our joys and our hardships and our life with you through this podcast. So make sure you're following along, guys, and we will talk soon.